Hi, guys. Thanks for stopping by. If you're subscribed, thanks. Please tell your friends. And if you're not subscribed, I hope you'll do so so we can keep doing this and talk about sometimes difficult subjects. Something I want to bring up today is the fact that it appears that the United States government, led by Donald Trump, is now in the business of human trafficking and slave labor. Um, we're paying El Salvador. We're flying people to El Salvador who've never been there before, aren't from there, and they're being imprisoned and used for slave labor. And this is what Trump is doing to what deport people. Um, if you can do this easily, it's unconstitutional. But if you can do this to people that he deems dangerous or criminal, illegal immigrants, and we know that he's deporting people who are here legally and who are not criminals. People are literally being shipped off where there's no oversight by the United States government or any of the good guys. And there are some countries that have offered to take more of these prisoners, even deported prisoners, meaning they're opening the door for Trump to literally criminalize people who aren't criminals, just take his enemies, his political enemies, and can't put them in US prisons because there's still some safeguards and basic human rights. But yeah, Trump would like to take an Adam Schiff, for example, and ship him off to El Salvador or somewhere else in the jungle, somewhere in South America, where nobody will ever see or hear from him again, where there's no oversight, where we don't know what happens. And you know that this is what Trump wants. He's kind of almost said as much. I think this whole business about claiming that the Biden pardons must not be legit because they were signed with an auto pen, and he's claiming Biden didn't know what he was doing. Well, Trump has signed pardons and many executive orders using the auto pen. But what he's trying to do is just lay some basic excuse down to delegitimize and rescind the Biden pardons. And then he wants to take those people, like a Liz Cheney, and have her shipped off to some third world country in a prison where there's absolutely no oversight. Do not think this is tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff. All the things that Trump has done over the years that sounded so ridiculous, then he ends up doing it. Um, we don't do ourselves any favors by being in denial about how bad this is or thinking he won't do what he says he's going to do because he's done a lot worse than the things he said he was going to do in his second term, especially. That's why so many MAGA are in shock. See, they thought that he was only going to hurt people that didn't support him, and they're getting hurt too because he doesn't care about them. He makes fun of them. He could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and won't lose support, that sort of thing. But he is talking, he's stepping up his rhetoric, and not just rhetoric, but laying the groundwork so that it's very easy and setting a precedent for him to literally take anyone that he and Kash Patel, Pam Bondi decide are a criminal and have them hauled off to a country where we can't get to them. We won't know what happens to them. Now, his supporters used to joke about this stuff very early on when he was running in 2015 and 2016. They would come after me and say, they do like what Pinochet was doing. They're going to be swinging from a helicopter and then drop me. They were real fond of that kind of language. I think now they actually mean that they're going to do it, and they will do it. Trump, at some point, he's going to follow the instructions of Putin, and he's going to have to make an example of someone. He will be doing this. It's just a matter of who and when. And once he does it once, he'll do it again and again and again. And there won't be anybody to stop him. So slave labor, again, we have El Salvador bragging about how they'll be sustainable because of the slave labor of their prisoners that Trump allowed on a plane, that the courts can't stop. They can, they should, but Trump is defying judicial orders, which means we are in a constitutional crisis. He's claiming that, by the time the order came down to turn the plane around, to not deport these people who were being deported illegally. He's saying that because they were out of US airspace, that courts here in our country don't have jurisdiction. This is dangerous stuff, folks. Really dangerous stuff. So it's obviously going to get worse before it gets better, but it's being fought in the courts. I think it'll be in the courts. It'll be MAGA that get very angry. And we know that these aren't the calm people. They're not the calmest people. They're not the most sane people. So when the MAGA understands, and I am talking about the red hat wearing idiots that go to the rallies, when they start figuring out what's happening to them, when it actually happens to them, they will be angry. And I think they will be violent. I think that it will be Republican members of Congress who have to step up when they are getting, really beaten up badly, rhetorically and with the visits and town halls when they go home. And they're going to have to worry about their own reelection. And again, it'll be MAGA. It'll be their own voters, their own supporters, the Trump supporters who are the loudest in demanding change because they've already made it clear they don't care about other people that they represent in Congress. So it'll be some of that. It'll be the courts. It'll be the judiciary. It'll be MAGA, red hat, toothless cousin, wedding, cult members and Republican members of Congress. And I'm saying that because those are the ones that would have the impact. That said, though, there's no excuse for Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries for being so bad at communications just to protect their own leadership positions. And I'm going to pound on that a lot. I know a lot of people are, but there's no excuse for this. I'm seeing some pretty silly Democratic members of Congress videos and things that they're doing that I don't know who's running their communications, but it's problematic. And I'm not saying that because I want to attack the communication staff, but having Democratic female members of Congress dancing around pretending they're boxing is embarrassing. It is disrespectful. It is sexist. It has nothing to do with them doing their jobs. And women have a hard enough time being taken seriously without that silliness. We're in bigger trouble than we think if we're out there doing that sort of thing. So please stop. I mean, I don't know what to say. I wish I could get a meeting with these folks and maybe give them a class in political communication strategy, which I'm pretty good at. And I used to teach it at the master's level. And I was a pretty successful practitioner of this too. There's something very, very wrong there. And I don't know, unless it's Chuck Schumer, I just don't, realizing there's a problem. I just don't see how this gets resolved. So we don't have much of an opposition. There are good people out there doing what they can alone, but I'm talking about leadership so that you have the big megaphone. And that simply isn't happening. So trying to come up with a strategy to work around the extreme weaknesses in the political communications of Democrats in Congress and the party in general is a pretty sad place to be. And I haven't gone there and tried to put together a plan that I could articulate here and in other places because I don't want to accept that we're really here, that we can't make them do better. But we can't. And it's getting to the point now where some Democrats, lawmakers and former lawmakers, and Biden's family, maybe Biden, are going to be placed in extreme danger if Democrats can't do better. So political communications is not just rah, 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 let's do a better Coke is it ad or something like this, or just do it. You do it because right now the politics in our country are a matter of life or death. And the egos of a few ancient lawmakers or people who might be good at one thing but not communicators, so they need to cede the lectern, get a lectern in a room in the Capitol, and let it Pete Buttigieg or somebody like that. I keep bringing that name because he's the best. Tim Ryan might be good, but a full-time, high-level person, make them special advisor where they wouldn't just be the mouthpiece, but they'd be fact-checking the White House. They'd be advising Democrats in Congress. It's not just about winning or losing now, because now I think that people are going to literally be disappeared into prisons and slave labor camps in third world countries. And that is something that's so hard for Americans to get their heads around. But, the people who understand this and watch this stuff, historians who've seen it happen in other countries, they've been warning us for years about Trump. They're saying all the signs are there. And in America, maybe we just took our freedoms for granted. I don't know. But at this point in time, I'm afraid for some high level Democrats and former Republicans, or current Republicans who are former members of Congress. I am afraid for them, and I'm afraid for people like me. Trump came after me in 2015 and 2016 before he had this big power base. But he's a longtime mobster. I was living in New York at the time, and it was frightening. It's real. This isn't hyperbole. So I do what I can on these platforms. There's really there's really nothing else you can do. But pay attention. Pay attention to the various efforts by Trump and his administration to literally get rid of people, to make them disappear into labor camps or other countries. Because if they are saying if someone's on a plane, then the US courts can't bring them back, God help us if Trump gets to put his political enemies on a plane and the courts try and step in and can't. And I think that's where we're headed.